Alright, listen up, we're diving deep into the digital trenches today. We're not talking about the glory, the victories, the 360 no-scopes that echo through eternity. No. Today we're venturing into the dark side, the shadows of a franchise that has dominated the gaming world for decades. We're talking about the most disappointing entries in the Call of Duty franchise. These are the games that had the hype, the momentum, the billion-dollar marketing machines behind them, but when we finally got our hands on them, they just fell flat. A total letdown. These were the titles that promised to redefine the genre, to push the boundaries, to deliver that pure, uncut adrenaline we crave. Instead, they delivered a participation trophy. They're the digital monuments to missed opportunities, the ones that left a sour taste in the mouths of the millions in the Champions Club. We expected greatness, we expected the pinnacle of online competitive gaming, but what we got was a watered-down, flimsy, and utterly forgettable experience. It's a betrayal of the highest order, and it's time to call them out. So get in, sit down, and buckle up. We're about to take a tour through the Hall of Shame. We're going to dissect these failures piece by piece and understand why they failed to capture the violence, speed, and momentum that makes Call of Duty a legend. This isn't just a list. This is a public service announcement. This is a lesson in what happens when developers get lazy, when they lose the vision, when they forget what we, the players, the true titans of the arena, actually want. Let's get this started. Let's start with a game that shot for the stars and ended up lost in the void Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. The reveal trailer for this thing became one of the most disliked videos in the history of YouTube, and for good reason. We, the boots-on-the-ground warriors, were craving a return to gritty tactical combat, and what did they give us? Spaceships, wall running in zero-G, laser pew-pew nonsense that felt more like a Saturday morning cartoon than a high-stakes military shooter. It was a slap in the face to the core community. They took the advanced movement systems from the previous games and cranked them up to an absurd level, completely abandoning the core identity of the franchise. The gameplay felt floaty, disconnected, and the maps were designed around these gimmicks, creating chaotic and unpredictable engagements that lacked any real tactical depth. It was all flash, no substance. The sound design was weak, the weapons felt like plastic toys, and the whole aesthetic was just sterile and uninspired. They tried to sell us on a grand space opera, but we just wanted to dominate the battlefield, not play tag in an asteroid field. The backlash was immediate and brutal. The community wasn't just disappointed, they were angry. It felt like the developers were completely out of touch, chasing trends instead of perfecting the formula that made them kings. They tried to bundle it with Modern Warfare Remastered just to move copies, a clear admission that they knew Infinite Warfare couldn't stand on its own 2 feet. It represents a moment when the franchise lost its way, prioritizing futuristic gimmicks over the raw, visceral, competitive gameplay that defines the 2-time back-to-back blockbuster video game champion. Next up, we have a game that promised to be the next evolution, the start of a new saga, but ended up being completely forgettable: Call of Duty Ghosts. Coming off the high of the Black Ops 2 era, the hype was astronomical. A new engine, a new story, a dog. The marketing was relentless, painting a picture of a gritty, post-apocalyptic America and a squad of elite soldiers. What we got was a campaign that was bland, predictable, and ended on a cliffhanger that nobody cared about. It was a ghost of a story, alright, but the real crime was the multiplayer. The maps were, without a doubt, some of the worst in the entire series. They were enormous, convoluted, and empty. You'd spend half the match just running around looking for a fight, only to get picked off by someone hiding in one of a million different windows or bushes. The color palette was a washed-out, depressing mess of browns and grays that made everything blend together. It was a camper's paradise and a rusher's nightmare, the complete opposite of the fast-paced action we expect. The so-called dynamic map events were a joke. A wall falling over, a gas station exploding. These were trivial, scripted events that had little to no impact on the flow of the game. The perk system was needlessly complicated, and the weapon balance was all over the place. Ghosts felt like a step backward in every conceivable way. It lacked the personality of Black Ops and the tight design of Modern Warfare. It was a hollow, soulless entry that coasted on the brand name alone, and it left the entire community feeling empty and underwhelmed. A true disappointment. Now let's talk about a more recent offender. A game that proves that going back to your roots doesn't guarantee success. Call of Duty Vanguard. After the massive success of Modern Warfare 2019 and the fun, arcadey feel of Cold War, the expectation was a glorious return to World War II with modern polish. Instead, Sledgehammer Games delivered a product that felt rushed, uninspired, and creatively bankrupt. The game was plagued by a sense of repetition that seeped into every single mode. The multiplayer was the biggest letdown. It felt less like a World War II game and more like a reskin of Modern Warfare 2019, but with none of the polish. The weapon customization was absurd, allowing you to slap 10 attachments onto a vintage rifle until it was an unrecognizable laser beam. Historical accuracy was thrown out the window for the sake of chaotic, unbalanced gameplay. The maps were riddled with destructible environments that just created more visual noise and random angles to get shot from, promoting a chaotic, thoughtless playstyle over any sort of strategy. And let's not even get started on the lack of innovation. We got another World War II setting, another set of familiar weapons, and another campaign about a ragtag group of special forces. There was nothing new here, nothing to push the franchise forward. It felt like a contractual obligation, a filler year to bide time. The game launched with bugs, questionable design choices like the obnoxious fire grenades, and a general feeling that it was assembled on a factory line rather than crafted with passion. Vanguard wasn't just disappointing, it was boring, and for a Call of Duty game, that is the ultimate sin. Sometimes the biggest disappointments come in the smallest packages. Case in point, Call of Duty, Black Ops Declassified for the PlayStation Vita. The idea was pure gold, a portable, full-fledged Call of Duty experience in the palm of your hand, the ability to dominate the arena from anywhere, anytime, sign me up. The hype was real. This was supposed to be the system seller for the Vita, the killer app that would showcase the power of Sony's handheld. What a catastrophic failure. The game was a technical disaster from top to bottom. The controls were atrocious. Trying to aim with the tiny analog sticks was a nightmare, and the forced touchscreen controls for things like throwing grenades or melee attacks were clunky and unresponsive. It was a constant fight against the game itself, not the enemy players. The frame rate would chug and drop constantly, turning intense firefights into a slideshow. It was a broken, unplayable mess that felt like it was cobbled together in a weekend. The content was pathetic. The campaign was just a series of disconnected, 5-minute-long missions with zero story or context. The multiplayer was a shell of its console counterparts, with tiny, poorly designed maps and a maximum of 4 versus 4 matches. It was a shallow, watered-down experience that captured none of the magic of the Black Ops name. Declassified wasn't just a bad game, it was an insult. It was a cash grab that preyed on the excitement of fans and delivered one of the most broken, disappointing entries in the history of the entire franchise. Finally, we arrive at a game that should have been a triumphant homecoming Call of Duty WOTY 2. After years of the community begging, pleading for a return to boots-on-the-ground combat, Sledgehammer Games was given the keys to the kingdom. The futuristic jetpack era was over, and we were going back to the beaches of Normandy. The hype was off the charts. This was supposed to be the Great Reset, the game that brought back the classic feel we all fell in love with. The potential was limitless, but the execution was underwhelming. While the campaign was decent, the multiplayer, the heart and soul of Call of Duty, felt strangely restrictive and bland. The new division system, which replaced the classic Create a Class, was a huge step backward. It limited player choice, forcing you into predefined roles and restricting weapon and perk combinations. It stifled the creativity and strategic depth that makes building a class so rewarding. It felt like they were holding our hands, afraid to give us the freedom we'd had for years. The maps were mostly uninspired, 3-lane designs that lacked personality, and the war mode, while a good idea on paper, grew repetitive quickly. The game just felt safe. It didn't take any real risks. It delivered a competent, functional boots-on-the-ground experience, but it lacked the spark, the IT factor that made the original World War II games or the Modern Warfare series so legendary. For many, after years of waiting, just okay wasn't good enough. It was a return to form that somehow forgot to bring the soul of the franchise with it. And there you have it, a journey through the valley of disappointment. From the sterile emptiness of space to the muddy, uninspired trenches of a war we've fought a dozen times before. These are the games that promised the world and delivered a tiny broken globe. They represent moments when the vision was lost, when the connection with the community was severed, and when the relentless pursuit of violence, speed, and momentum was traded for gimmicks and safe bets. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's the truth. But the story of Call of Duty isn't just about its failures, it's also about its incredible highs, its legendary moments that have defined a generation of gaming. For every disappointment, there's a masterpiece that reminds us why we keep coming back. The franchise has stumbled, but it has never been knocked out. The hope for that next perfect entry, the next game that will consume our lives and create legendary moments in the arena, is what keeps the fire burning. The passion from the community is what drives this series forward. Now the floor is open. I've given you my list, my breakdown of the absolute worst of the worst. But this is a conversation. I want to hear from you, the soldiers in the trenches, the champions in the arena. Which Call of Duty game let you down the most? Which title had you hyped beyond belief, only to completely crush your spirits when you finally played it? Get down in the comments section and let me know. Sound off. Let the world know which game committed the ultimate crime of being a disappointment.